Good morning, and we're back here at the 3 Sad Cypress Trees location. We're going to go on with chapter 22, Security. I loved Otis Redding. He was a big, muscled country boy with a huge heart and a beautiful soul. As a vocalist, Otis brought something new to town. He had an openness about him, a happiness, and a sense of everything's going to be all right that everyone found irresistible. There's a lot of birds coming in, but I feel like we can't see them, because it's dark. We'll stay up there somewhere in the middle. Okay. His horn arrangements were slick and sophisticated, yet his singing was as down-home as you can get. We knew each other from the road, and he always treated me with respect and appreciation. He said I was one of the singers who had inspired him, which was as big a compliment as I had ever received. He wanted to produce me, and we agreed that I'd come to Memphis, where we'd cut sides at the Stax studio. I was thrilled at the thought of Otis writing songs and charts. "Anytime, Otis," I told him when he called in the winter of 1967, while I was in Muscle Shoals for the second time. We agreed to get together in early '68. Just checking everything. Well, good morning. Otis was much on my mind when I sang his song, Security. At that second Muscle Shoals session, I was thinking of working with him, thinking how deep his music cut. Security, he wrote. Without it, I'm at a great loss. Security, I sang, and I wanted at any cost. The words penetrated me. Security was such an amazing concept. Security had eluded me my whole life. These crows are a type of security, to be fair. Morning, everybody. All right, here we go again. Security had eluded me my whole life. I sought it, but I also saw it slipping through my fingers as I started itching for the needle. At that same session, I did a version of Aretha's Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. A song I felt fit me as well as her, both in singing style and personal meaning. We were still staying with wrong-headed men. When I left Alabama, it was December. I was getting excited about Christmas, and I remember talking to Otis again, just to reconfirm our commitment to meet up in a month or two to do this album in Memphis. "Etta," he said, "we'll do some duets, and I'm going to write some new things. Ain't nothing going to keep me from that session." Well, you know what happened. On December 10th, Otis was riding in a chartered plane that crashed into a Wisconsin lake, killing him and 4 members of his backup band. I couldn't believe the news. I knew it was some terrible mistake. They got the wrong name, identified the wrong body. Otis was too young and strong, too alive to be dead. Like Jesse or Sam, he was just starting out, just getting ready to take his place in the spotlight. Soon afterward, they released Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, which turned out to be his biggest hit. In a way, the song became his own beautiful eulogy. When I finally did record in 1968, I couldn't get Otis out of my mind. His presence was over all the studios. Everyone felt his absence. I remember going to Nashville, where Leonard's son Marshall teamed up with Paul Simon to produce an album on me. Paul was cool, a real mild and respectful cat, and he and I even wrote some original songs together. The material, though, got lost in the shuffle. Never did come out. Well, good morning. Oh, there's two of them. Good morning, babies. Okay, the next story. You guys know how I feel about my eagles. Or not mine, again. Oh. There seems to be a little verbal disagreement. And I know you can hear it because them birds. Sounds like having teenagers in the house. Nah. She's been in the bathroom too long. She should get down. What are y'all complaining about? These are the two. They're just arguing. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, sorry. Oh, there went one eagle. He's tired of all that noise. And the other one's sitting in the other tree. He doesn't see. There's one here that's more mild-mannered than the other ones. And that one doesn't seem to be bothered by me or, the noises. Okay, here we go. Let's stick to the story here. Can I get this? This isn't a very long chapter, but Lord knows I can make it long, can't I? Okay. 1968 was one hell of a year. On March 23rd, my baby was born, and I thanked God for the miracle. I called him Danto, and he was beautiful. Love at first sight. He had this gorgeous face and powerful lungs that could scream up a storm. I was guilty that I'd been snorting while I was pregnant. In the beginning of his life, he had health problems. He came out gagging, and I wondered whether I was the cause. He wouldn't swallow or keep food down. Ramon was living with me and Billy at the fort when I brought Danto home. I remember writing down in his baby book that Ramon was the first person Danto saw when he opened his eyes. He gave Ramon his first smile. This drag queen turned out to be the best mama you could imagine. She loved little Danto with all her heart. And because I was running around gigging, still messing with drugs, still crazy in the head, I couldn't take care of my baby. He was born into a hellish and turbulent period of my life. And no doubt he felt the chaos. I was fighting with his father, Billy Foster, like never before. Matter of fact, Billy tried to sell the fort and nab the cash by lying and saying he was my husband. I put a stop to it, but I still couldn't put a stop to the relationship. The fort started to resemble a hippie hangout. Gene Redding came by and stayed for a long while. I'd met Gene up in Anchorage. He called himself Otis's cousin, and he was a great singer. Yes, it is. Okay, come on, baby. There's so many birds flying by. It's just lines and lines and lines of them. But they don't show up on my iPhone. All right, here we go again. Stick to the story, Crystal. The fort started to resemble a hippie hangout. Gene Redding came by and stayed for a long while. I'd met Gene up in Anchorage. He called himself Otis's cousin, and he was a great singer, a soldier boy. Came back from Nam looking for some action. Gene had hooked up with some hippies from New York, and they were traveling around in a beat-up Flower Power VW van, typical of the times. I let them crash in my garage, which turned into a big bedroom with candles and pillows, incense burning thick, and psychedelic posters plastered on the walls. I dug the hippies. I related. I saw them as rebels, the way I'd been a rebel, except they were mixing rebellion with love. I liked their attitude. It was a whole generation of young white kids who were interested in sweetness and compassion. They treated black men and women like sisters and brothers, and seemed determined to put the racism of their parents behind them. It was naive and idealistic, but hey, why not? The hippies were wild for soul music. You could see that by how they treated Otis at the Monterey Pop Festival. Jimi Hendrix turned out to be a soul guitarist and soul singer who had the imagination to take things further out. I think of Sly Stone, a close friend of mine, as the other black man who was a hippie leader. I'll tell you more about Sly in a minute. I felt comfortable with the lifestyle changes I was seeing. Plus, the hippies came loaded with high-powered weed and a strong love for drugs. You didn't have to convince me about mind alteration. I'd been into that for years. I developed a taste for mushrooms and found myself tripping to places where heroin or cocaine didn't go. So from his crib, this is what little Danto was seeing. All these weird-looking folks running around through Mama's house. Just about this time, Dorothy reappeared on the scene and got upset. She didn't like the hippies or anything else that was going on at the fort. In fact, she kidnapped Danto when he was only 6 days old, telling Ramon that she just wanted to take him for a ride. She and this no-good boyfriend of hers borrowed my car and didn't come back with Danto for 3 days. I was frantic, but there was no way to find her. When she returned, the baby was still having trouble swallowing. "We went to Mexico," she said before adding, "I thought Danto needed to get out of here for a while." A 6-day-old baby. There was no reasoning with Dorothy. There was no slowing down the pace of my life. When Danto was just a few months old, I took him with me to Muscle Shoals, where I made more records. I cut Otis's first hit, Mr. Pitiful, calling it Miss Pitiful. Not a bad description of me back then. At that same session, I also sang a song, Almost Persuaded, with a strong country feel to it that convinced me that I could sing country music like Ray Charles. I'd always have my bluesy, churchy inflections, but I think my heart and head are well suited for country material. I've always appreciated Patsy Cline and related to the sad messages country music conveys. Another thing I'll never forget about the Muscle Shoals session, I saw Leonard Chess for the first time. I remember going to that little Alabama airstrip to meet him. He flew in from Chicago in his private plane that held about 14, except that the only passengers getting off were Leonard and his mistress, a middle-aged lady with blonde hair. The girlfriend was small, just like Leonard, who had left his Jewish wife back home. Leonard was in a great mood. I think he was always happy to hear me sing, and he was especially happy to see my baby, Danto. Etta, he said, now you're a real mother. He kept us in stitches with stories about Billy Stewart. Billy was a chess artist, a strong soul singer with a strange, stuttering style. He purposely stuttered when he sang, giving a different kind of emphasis to the lyrics. He just recorded Summertime, the Gershwin classic, and changed up some of the words. Billy, who was no rocket scientist, started demanding that, as a result of his contribution, he be given part of the publishing rights of the song. Leonard explained that the Gershwin estate wasn't about to give up nothing. But Billy kept bullying Leonard about money for his add-on lyrics. Finally, Leonard said, okay, Billy, vat will do is this. I'll give you the address of the publishing company, and you'll go there, and you will make the demands yourself. Damn right, said Billy, who immediately flew to New York to hound the publishing company. In Manhattan, he hailed a cab and gave this Queen's address to the driver. Well, the cabbie kept on driving and driving until he reached the destination. This can't be it, screamed Billy. That's the address you gave me, buddy, the cabbie shot back. Turned out Leonard gave Billy the address of the cemetery where Gershwin is buried. If Leonard could fool Billy, I sure as hell couldn't fool Leonard. He saw I was still dabbling with drugs. The man knew me, knew when I was too low or too high. Etta, he'd say, "Ven will you learn? Oy vey, ven will you learn?" I didn't lie to him, and I think he admired me for that. He liked that I was candid about being bad, but he was confounded by my inability to reform. He would call me stubborn and ornery and willful, and he'd be right. He was something like an uncle, and like my real uncle, my favorite Uncle Frank, I could always count on Leonard when I was in a pinch. As he watched me record, he laughed as I carried on. I was singing this super sassy song Dorothy and I had written, combination of our salty personalities, called WOMAN. And then here's the lyrics to that. Talking about your man, always ready to go. When it comes to moving, daddy. Good morning, baby. All my friends are coming. Sorry. They fly over, like they come right by the window of my van. So he needed to be acknowledged. My apologies. Okay. Talk about your man, always ready to go. When it comes to moving, daddy, baby, you're awful slow. I'm a WOMAN, a woman. You ain't got nothing in your pocket to keep no girl alive. But she got something for all you men, something to make you cry. WOMAN, a woman. Now Jesse James and Frank James, baddest men in the land, we got some women who make them eat out of their hands. Leonard was one of the few people who could see that, although I acted and sang tough, I was mush on the inside. I was fronting my toughness to hide something else. Now I can see that something else was fear and confusion, but then I didn't even want to look. When I look at what happened the rest of the year, though, I'm amazed I didn't fall apart. Back in LA, with the fort turned into something of a hippie crash pad, things were getting out of hand. Billy bought a little fox, thinking it'd make a good present. At first, the fox was cute and calm, and we figured it'd make a decent pet. We fed him out of a bottle, But when we found him in Danto's bed trying to suck from Danto's bottle, that was it. I went crazy and demanded we keep the thing on a chain, but the chain got the fox crazier, so I decided to get rid of him. Instead of giving the fox away, though, Billy gave him red devils, Seconal pills to chill him out. He took the animal for a ride, and when he got back, the fox was friendly as a little puppy. Billy showed him off all up and down the street, bragging to the neighbors how he had tamed this wild animal. Back in the house, once the fox came out of his red devil sleep, we were feeding him Kool-Aid out of a baby bottle when he suddenly went wild on us. He bit the nipple off, chewed up the glass bottle, broke loose from his chain, and started running around, foaming at the mouth and snarling viciously. Oh my God, I thought, where's the baby? I ran after the fox, who ran into the den where one of the white hippie girls was playing with Danto. When the fox charged them, the girl immediately scooped up Danto and ran upside the fireplace, which was made of big rocks you could climb. So she ran up there holding Danto over her head. By then we were able to chase the fox into a corner. The hippie girl saved my baby's life. When it was time for me to go out and work, how else were we going to get money? Billy and Danto went across country on a train to Boston. When that got too hard, we got a mobile home in Memphis and worked the South. And while we were traveling, while I was working and fighting with Billy, my casual use increased until I was back to where I started. My Junkie Jones got serious all over again. On the way back to California, we stopped in Vegas, which was where Danto got sick. He had problems breathing. I rushed him to the hospital, but they wouldn't admit him without a big deposit. When I went to pay, I discovered all my earnings were gone. Billy had stolen my money and lost it all at the tables. I didn't have time to scream and fight. Danto's life was threatened. So I pawned a ring, sold a spare tire on the mobile home, and raced across the desert, driving directly to Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. Back home, the problems for Danto and for me were getting heavier. And that is the end of chapter 22. 23 will be titled Frantic, and I'm going to try to read it right now while the sun's coming up. Oh, all of my babies are here. Oh my goodness. Hi, everyone. Oh, and even the eagle is here. Oh, my rowdy friends. They just flied in when I wasn't looking, I guess. Look there. Hi, babies. Oh, there you all are. Oh, my goodness. Good morning. Good morning, my lovelies. Okay, again, I'm going to try to read another chapter while the rest of my friends join in. I appreciate you. I've been reading to you Etta James, Rage to Survive. Thank you for being with me.